In a series of devastating aerial assaults, Israeli warplanes have targeted homes in the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip, resulting in the deaths of at least 17 Palestinians. The overnight strikes have caused widespread destruction and heightened the humanitarian crisis in the besieged territory. The first strike, which occurred overnight, claimed the lives of 10 people, including women and children. The attack left many others injured and trapped under the rubble. Among the victims, 5 were from the same family, highlighting the tragic impact on households in the camp. Al Jazeera reported that the number of casualties is expected to rise as rescue efforts continue and more bodies are potentially discovered beneath the debris. An hour later, a second air raid targeted another house in the Nuseirat camp. This strike resulted in additional fatalities, including children, their parents, and grandparents, further compounding the grief and suffering of the local community. The relentless bombardment has left a profound mark on the residents, who are now grappling with the loss of loved ones and the destruction of their homes. The latest assaults come just 10 days after a previous massacre at the Nuseirat camp, where more than 270 Palestinians were killed and nearly 700 others were injured. The Israeli military claimed that it had rescued 4 captives during that attack, but the overwhelming loss of life and injury among civilians has drawn sharp condemnation from international observers. UN human rights experts have strongly condemned the massacre, describing it as one of the most heinous acts in Israel's ongoing conflict in Gaza. They expressed their outrage at the excessive violence and devastating impact of the attacks, highlighting the horrific scenes described by survivors. Israel's attack on the Nuseirat camp is obnoxious in its excessive violence and devastating impact, they stated. According to survivors, the streets of Nuseirat were filled with bodies of dead and injured people, including children and women, lying in pools of blood. Walls were covered in body parts scattered by multiple explosions and bombed houses. The recent airstrikes are part of a broader escalation of violence that began on October 7, when the Palestinian Hamas resistance group launched a historic operation against Israel in retaliation for what they described as the regime's intensified atrocities against Palestinians. Since then, the conflict has resulted in significant casualties. According to reports, the Tel Aviv regime has killed at least 37,347 Palestinians, mostly women and children, and injured 85,372 others in Gaza. The ongoing conflict has exacerbated the already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, where the blockade and repeated military assaults have left the population struggling to access basic necessities such as food, water, and medical care. The international community has called for an immediate cessation of hostilities and the implementation of measures to protect civilians and ensure their access to humanitarian aid.